Hello, everyone. Welcome to Change and Thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Heckelman, founder and CEO of WLH Consulting and Learning Solutions. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe and select the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss an episode. As our world continues to swirl, one thing we know for certain is that leaders play a critical role in providing direction to their teams and guiding individuals through difficult transition points in their professional and personal lives. At WLH, we have created a new leadership paradigm steeped in research on the critical capabilities required to lead into the future. Not only do leaders need to be able to lead themselves and lead others, but they need to lead the business and lead across the organization. Most capability development doesn't happen by chance. Emerging leaders need the support and coaching to develop, advance, and thrive. In today's podcast, we are going to focus on women in leadership, discussing coaching, mentorship, and sponsorship. Today, I am pleased to have Lisa Brooks-Griot, who has been a client, trusted colleague, and friend for more than a decade. Lisa is the author of Don't Advocate the Throne, where she shares tips on how women can take control of their lives, not relinquish power, and continue to grow and develop. Lisa, it is such a pleasure to have you on today's show, and welcome.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks. I'm pleased to be here. I'm thrilled to be here, actually.
Lisa, this is great. We've been wanting to do this for a while, so I would love to kick off with leading women.
Wow. So now you're talking about one of my most favorite topics about leadership first and foremost, but especially leading women and women leaders. And right off the bat, I'm just going to tell you, women are exceptional leaders. And it's not because I'm biased, but it's really through the rigor data that I've been steeped in my own experience. And what makes them exceptional leaders is that women possess that rare and uncanny ability to be strategic, to have that strategic mindset, as well as being visionary. And that's a rare combination, as well as they're able to execute and get stuff done. I've watched really terrific women leaders mobilize their teams, mobilize organizations. And in that ability, they're focused and they just kind of cut through all the subterfuge and get stuff done.
So Lisa, when you're talking about this strategic lens, as well as their ability to get stuff done, and in the business world, we often use the term execution excellence,
right?
But they also are really big collaborators and work with teams. And I'm curious, especially during these difficult times, what do you see as the most critical leadership capabilities required?
Well, so, let's face it, we are in some really unprecedented, uncharted times right now. And that in and of itself calls for a special brand of leadership and some particular skills. And what I see women doing is, as you said, being really collaborative. I mean, I think that goes without saying, and there's been so much research about that. But in addition to, they're more inclusionary. I mean, and I think that's we're hardwired that way, to look and include everyone and to get the input of folks, even perhaps folks that might be more introverted and don't say a lot. Women tend to reach out and pull them in and get their perspective and hear their shared experiences. I mean, I just think of some amazing women that, that we've seen throughout everything that we're going through in the world. I mean, if you look at, either prime ministers or presidents of certain countries like Belgium, Ireland, Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, Ethiopia, just to name a few of some of the women who are running countries, and how they've also been able to mitigate some of the damages of COVID. They're a great example, as well as some of the women running Fortune 500 companies, of which there are only 37 right now at Fortune 500, by the way. So I think that you asked, what are some of those kind of skill sets, or what are the capabilities that are needed right now? And I would say, and again, none of this is revolutionary, but I would say the ability to be agile and to be able to pivot, because a lot of the things that we were, thinking of doing and we had in place, and these were objectives, we probably had to scrap a lot of that, in 2020. Being able to make a decision and make a decision without having all the information, right? We like to have as much information as we can, so we're carefully looking at all different angles. But right now, there are so many things that, we have to make information on the fly.
So you're talking about agility, you're talking about collaboration, you're talking about taking different pieces of information and making evidence-based but quick decisions, right? So they can guide themselves and their teams. And that combination doesn't happen by chance, right? It takes development. I mean, you've been in the leadership development business for a long time, as we have been as well. Mm-hmm. And we know that it takes not only programming, but it takes coaching, it takes mentoring, and for women to really advance, it takes sponsorship. So I would love for you to take a couple minutes and share with our audience, what's the difference between coaching, mentoring, and sponsorship, so people really understand those nuanced differences?
And Wendy, they are very different. They're all critical components, but they're very different. And at different points of your career, you might need one more than another. But, and again, I don't want to put a judgment on it and say, well, this one is more important than that one, because they collectively all work together. Let's start with being a mentor and what mentoring is. And, a mentor generally is somebody that's internal to the organization that you're working in. And this person, the mentor, will provide information and direction around how to navigate the organization. Where are those landmines? In pointing you in the direction of, who can help you? Who are the people that have significant influence in a company? They can also provide some career guidance, especially if they have that institutional knowledge and have been around for a while. So they help you understand, the coded language in an organization. And so what I mean by that is, if you've ever been to the South, or in particular in Texas, when someone says to you, well, bless your heart. Well, if you're from the South, you're from Texas, you know that bless your heart does not mean what some folks might think it means. Oh, bless your heart, that's nice. Bless your heart kind of means, well, I can't believe you said that, because that was such a dumb statement. So there's that coded language that mentors help you understand, right? They help you figure it out that's not on the surface. So that's a mentor. And you also build a relationship with this person, right? So that's the mentor. And it could be long term. I mean, I've had mentors that I've had in my life, my entire career, right? So then when you look at a coach's role is a little bit different, in that they provide you with tools to either fix, to acquire, or to fill in a gap. And generally we see coaches helping people change behavior, especially when, there's an assessment done and it says, you know what, here are some areas that could be blind spots or derailers for you. So coaches come in and they provide feedback, and they generally will give you that tough, constructive feedback about, hey, this is going to hurt you down the road if you don't take care of it. They help you identify those blind spots, which are those areas that, you don't even know that they're there and that they can hurt you. So that's the role of a coach. They give that tough feedback. It's tough love, right? And most of the time your coach is external, although, your manager can also be a coach and provide coaching for you. And that's the best of all worlds, right?
Right. So before we jump into sponsoring, so let's spend a minute about coaching. People have external coaches. Often that is more the exception than the norm. And in most cases, like you said, direct managers are providing coaching and feedback. In the life sciences world and pharmaceuticals, first line leaders will often ride with customer-facing professionals and provide them coaching. It can happen in a marketing component, anywhere. But they're giving them day-to-day direction as well as feedback to leverage those strengths, as well as, to your point, give them the tough love on development opportunities. So, coaches are critical for somebody in their career, and that they're often changes depending on where you are in your role. And like you were saying, mentoring are really those advisors and those people who provide guidance. Let's zero in on sponsorship, because I'm not sure everybody really understands what sponsors are and how critical they are. So can you please paint the picture there? Because you know so much about that.
That's a great point. I mean, and as of late, having a sponsor, getting a sponsor, the word sponsor has been in vogue. When in actuality, Linda Hill out of Harvard, she was talking about sponsorship well over 20 years ago. And so I really want to make sure that she gets credit for it, because she first talked about that 20, 25 years ago. And a sponsor in an organization is someone that has a significant amount of social capital, influence, and power. Right? So a sponsor is that person that will say, well, hey, you know what? Why aren't we considering Wendy for this role? I know Wendy, she's been doing X, Y, and Z, and she's been terrific. I think we should really consider her for this position. So when the sponsor says that, Wendy gets considered for that position. And likewise, if the sponsor says, well, Lisa really needs to be on that project team. I want to see her on that project team, especially if that project team is a highly visible project with lots of exposure. Boom, then Lisa gets put on that team. But a sponsor is that person that has significant influence, social capital, and power within an organization to make those things happen. Additionally, the sponsor is also the person who will defend you in that room where decisions are being made about promotions or about, those talent review meetings or those succession planning meetings. The sponsor will be the person in that room that defends you. If someone says, well, I don't know if Wendy's ready for that role yet, the sponsor will say, yeah, she's ready for that role. I know her. Let's take a chance on her. The sponsor will be somebody who will actually put themselves, in a position to reflect, to also make sure that your name gets put out there. And again, because they have so much social capital in an organization, it gets done.
They are really the advocates. They're the people, like you said.
They're more than an advocate. They're an advocate. And because they possess so much influence and power in an organization, what they say will get done. Now, the difference between a sponsor and a coach is that with a sponsor, you might not know who that person is. So the person who's being sponsored may never know that they have a sponsor, or B, the other thing is they don't usually have a relationship like you have with a mentor, or even like you can have with a coach. It's just this person sees the value in you moving from point A to point B to point C. So they will, yes, advocate for you, and B, defend you.
People don't always know who their sponsor is. A lot of times, as you start a mentoring relationship, it can grow into that of sponsorship.
Yes.
But I am curious, as part of my last question for you, is when you're building a team of diverse women leaders, how important is sponsorship and mentorship?
It's key. You know what? Because when you hire or you're promoting women, and building a team, with women, obviously they're capable. Obviously they're competent. Again, so let's provide them with the tools and the resources they need to flourish. So a mentor can help folks understand and navigate, that the culture of an organization. And as we all know, culture will eat strategy for breakfast every day. So, and in more people derail in organizations because they don't understand the culture. So having a mentor is critical for someone to understand, okay, how do I not misstep in the organization? So, it would be insane to not provide that resource. It's critical to have a sponsor, because if you don't have a sponsor, then you've hired these women with, amazing potential, and it never gets off the ground. And we have seen far too much of that in organizations where you have incredibly capable women. However, is they never realize their potential because no one's advocating for them for these particular roles or assignments or promotions. So the advocacy is so key, and the ability to make it happen, to take a chance on someone. If you're not doing that, then that's a big miss.
And, it's really important, for the audience to understand that as we think about development of talent and of women and diverse women, that it is so critical that they first have the critical capabilities that we've been talking about: strategy, execution, agility, quick decision-making, critical capabilities, that it's important that they get regular coaching and feedback so they can continue and grow. And lastly, that they understand the importance of mentors and make sure they're a part of their career, and hope to find that sponsor who will continue to advocate and use their power to help their individuals advance in their careers. So, Lisa, it has been a tremendous pleasure to have you on today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
So, Wendy, can I add one thing before we close up, which I think is so critical, and I can't even believe I didn't say that earlier. So if you are joining an organization, or if you're in an organization and you don't have a mentor or a coach, ask for one. And that is the one area where women are remiss. We don't ask for what we need and for what we want. So now that you know that you need these people in your life, ask. Yeah, I really need a mentor to advance my career. I really need a coach. And oh, by the way, I need a sponsor. So you know what? If you don't ask, you don't get. Very simple.
The biggest takeaway here is figure out what you need and make sure you ask for it, and ask for it again until you get it, and then continue to own your development and get the support along the way. So thank you for such a robust discussion. I know we'll be having more as we continue to talk around leadership. As we close out today's podcast, if you're an organization looking to develop your leaders, feel free to reach out, as we have cutting edge leadership development programming and resources. And if you're ready with your business, check out our new book, Change and Thrive, a modern approach to change leadership, now available on Amazon. And I'm Dr. Wendy Heckelman, and I'd like to thank you. Wonderful rest of the day. See you next week.